Welcome to Adam's Music Box, where today the breaking news around the world is the death at the age of 76 of Orenthal James Simpson, known best as OJ or the Juice. Now, OJ was someone who gained fame in many, many sectors. First, he was a college football star running back with USC. Then he joined the Buffalo Bills. He was also an Olympic athlete, played on the 49ers. Then he conquered the world of television, movies, advertising. He, of course, made legal history several times, and there are many different opinions on that. He was a pop culture icon. But one thing he wasn't was a musician. He never sung or rapped into a microphone, and to my knowledge, he never played a musical instrument on record, but he nevertheless was a hugely influential figure in the music industry. And this was particularly true in the genre of hip hop, and we'll get to why in a little bit. Now, the first song that mentioned OJ was from 1994, and this song saw the reunion of Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, who of course formed NWA together in the late 80s. Cube then left the band due to disputes with their manager, Jerry Heller. There's a great movie about that. But they remained friends, and obviously the mutual respect was never gone. And in 1994, much to the delight of fans around the world, they reunited for the song Natural Born Killers with the line that was rapped by Ice Cube, but I'm down with Dre like AC is down with OJ. Now, AC refers to Al Cowlings, who in many ways shadowed OJ's career, first at USC football, then with the Buffalo Bills, and they remained good friends, and that was sort of a sign that Dre and Cube were back together. Another great West Coast rapper, Tupac Shakur, on Picture Me Rollin' from 1996, wrote, "Free like OJ all day, you can't stop me." But it wasn't just the West Coast rappers who were really in their heyday in the 90s that referenced OJ. That same year, one of my favorite East Coast rap groups, very melodic beats, really interesting stuff, very consistent across many albums, A Tribe Called Quest came out with The Hop. And the lyric there that mentioned OJ is, "Get me vexed, I do it like Left Eye, start an arson. Now that I got that out of my system, watch me stab up the track as if my name was OJ Simpson." Obviously, I'm just reciting these, I'm not rapping these, but you can see that both for the things that were celebrated about OJ, for the things that were in some people's minds controversial about him, he entered pop culture through hip hop. Eminem mentioned him on the song Role Model in 1999. Kendrick Lamar mentioned him many times. There's a great line from the 2004 song by Nas called These Are Our Heroes, and the line is, "But there's something they don't say. Keep getting accused for abusing white pussy, from OJ to Kobe. Oh, let's call him Tobe." Now, this is, of course, a reference to the 19, I believe it was 77, the miniseries Roots, where OJ acted. He was, of course, an actor among many other things. And this deals with the racial issues that were implicit and are implicit in many ways in US society to do with Black celebrities. Very interesting there. Of course, Ye, who was then known as Kanye West, mentioned OJ in his 2007 song Stronger, which is one of his top songs ever in the minds of many. Cameron, who later on went to effectively co-host a podcast with OJ and fellow hip-hop star Mace in recent years. In fact, a few months ago, they were all together on the Come and Talk to Me podcast. And this was the song Cuffin' that Cameron released in 2009. 50 Cent dropped OJ's name, and to crown it, Jay-Z on the story of OJ literally named the song after OJ and made it all about him. Now, OJ didn't comment on a lot of these songs, but just last year, a paparazzi photographer in Las Vegas was obviously, he had an OJ encounter, and he asked Juice about what he felt about this song, because the song implies that OJ in the 70s and 80s was so integrated into white American culture that he had lost touch with his Afro-American roots. OJ responded to that saying that the Jay-Z song sort of took a phrase that he said out of context. The line is, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." Now, OJ tells the story of him discussing this with one of his attorneys, Johnny Cochran, a very well-known attorney for much of the second half of the 20th century. As OJ told it, just last year, Johnny was talking about the wider racial and social implications of OJ's criminal trial, his first criminal trial, which he was found not guilty. And it was, of course, called the trial of the century in the media at the time. It took place in an LA that was fraught with racial tensions. It was just shortly after the LAPD officers, the Los Angeles police officers, who were caught on film beating a black motorist called Rodney King, were acquitted. That acquittal led to the 92 LA riots. And just a few years later, we have a celebrity, a black celebrity, OJ, who was accused of something serious and put on trial for it, Cochran being one of his lawyers. And the point that OJ says that he was making to Cochran is that for him, it's not about the social implications of the trial, but rather it was about him as an individual. In other words, as he told the reporter last year, it's because of me. I'm OJ. This is me who's having to defend myself here. So, very interesting for him to respond to Jay-Z like that. But what do all of these songs have in common? Well, they have the following in common. Hip hop is music as history being told in the present day. It's a reflection, it's a mirror that's held up to the culture. And it's not just about the MCs themselves saying what they have to say, but it's about them reflecting on the news cycle, on celebrities, on their communities, on their regions, the East Coast, West Coast scandal. What else was that but a regional battle? It's very interesting because, of course, the great Hellenic poet Homer was sort of like a rapper of his day in the sense that it was poetry, and rap is poetry. It was told orally rather than written, and rap, of course, is an oral format that we happen to record thanks to modern technology. We can look at things like Beowulf in the Middle Ages. The idea of telling stories, of conveying opinions, of laying down history has always been an implicit part of poetry. And yes, in Homer's day, the poetry would have been recited like a song rather than a dry reading for two. And there were two reasons behind that. One, it's easier to remember poetic lines when you can associate them with even the vaguest sort of melody. And the other reason is that it was more entertaining for the people that would be listening to the recitations. And so when we look at what happened with OJ's rise to musical fame outside of the music industry, what we really see is something that we, at least those of us who were around for some or all of OJ's life, we can see that we really were a part of history. We lived through something that was very interesting, a remarkable career of a man that was almost universally loved, then divided people, sometimes on a racial basis, sometimes on an ideological basis. And in recent years, especially since he was since he was appearing on the sports podcast talking about NFL analysis with Cameron and Mace, I think that people were having a second look at him because the podcast format allows people to speak with their own mind and their own mouth what was only said about them by others before. I think that when the history of the long and interesting life of O.J. Simpson is written, I think a lot of the rap music that was written about him will be analyzed as a means to reflect on how some elements, and at times many elements in society, looked at this larger than life figure. And I think that's one of the great gifts that hip hop has given to the future is it's a window into the past, a window into a certain period of time when, let's say, someone was beefing with someone else, a coast beefing with someone else, what a president's policies meant to certain people in America, what foreign policies meant to certain people in the world. Immortal Technique, for instance, raps a lot about foreign policy. The list goes on. And so we can analyze which of these rappers were praising OJ, which were criticizing him, which were using him as a means of conveying some other idea because of a humorous reference to a major celebrity, which is often done in hip hop. And instinctively, everyone who has heard any of these songs at all will know that this is true. But when we step back and analyze it up close, it becomes, frankly, all the more fascinating when one looks at it at a forensic level. So enjoy the music. Obviously, we're not talking about a musician, but as I said, someone who inspired a whole lot of lyrics in the hip hop genre, and who knows what will come next. Like, subscribe, tune in next time. We'll see you soon. Take care.